Today, I will be exploring homelessness nationwide. My purpose is to explain the problems, causes, and solutions within homelessness. My specific purpose is to persuade the audience into taking action and responsibility to help the homeless. Having already lost two of his fingers due to frostbite, John Royo, a homeless man on the streets of Windsor, Canada, lives hand dry to hand dry in an attempt to keep his remaining fingers warm. Royo and his brother Douglas struggled with an opioid addiction. Douglas was diagnosed with cancer, then prescribed hydromorphine, which fueled their heroin addiction due to the accessibility to the drug. Royo could no longer afford his addiction when Douglas died in 2011 at the age of 47. Royo has two kids that he has not been in contact with due to his current living situation and mental state. All of his money was spent on drugs, causing him to lose his house, brother, and children. His current home is a shelter made of cardboard, tarps, and 5 ragged blankets. His sleeping options are limited since he was recently banned from the closest homeless shelter because he was illegally dumpster diving for shoe polish. Royo explains, "I polish my shoes every single day because it's like waking up to a brand new pair of shoes. There's nothing like a homeless person waking up to a brand new pair of shoes every morning. It just makes me feel a little better about myself." This account was reported by Trevor Wilhelm in the Windsor Star on January 31st, 2019. Homelessness is rapidly growing every day nationwide. Millions of homeless people are not able to access basic human resources needed to survive day to day. As a result of those who have experienced homelessness for long periods of time, they are classified as a part of the chronic homelessness population. Chronic homelessness is classified as an individual who has been homeless for more than a year. The stigma surrounding homelessness has resulted in myths discrediting a homeless person's situation. Many believe people choose to be homeless when it's usually a direct result of unemployment, unaffordable housing, and circumstances. Most Americans do not have the funds to cover an emergency without borrowing money or selling their positions. The reality is, anyone is at risk to become homeless. Today, I will discuss the painful realities of homelessness crisis nationwide, the causes of becoming homelessness, and the solutions for those who are in this devastating position. There are many laws in place that infringe upon the homelessness and their equal protection under the law. Laws prevent people from sleeping on benches, loitering in front of businesses, and begging for money, which is usually the only option they're given. Hernandez, a man who was arrested for feeding the displaced population every week in downtown Albuquerque, had previously been feeding those in need for 4 years prior to this incident until he got arrested. The city of Albuquerque was trying to move the homeless to a shelter called Joy Junction. Joy Junction is a government-funded shelter offering subpar care for the homeless, which is where the city of Albuquerque was trying to push the majority of the displaced population. Hernandez states, "The idea of out of sight, out of mind is the platform that legislators build anti-feeding laws upon. They're trying to make homeless disappear by essentially outlawing compassion towards them. Survival as a homeless person is difficult due to the lack of access of basic necessities like clean clothes, showers, and reliable transportation." One major group affected by homelessness is the LGBTQ youth community. According to the Human Rights Campaign, LGBTQ youth are 120% more likely to experience homelessness than non-LGBTQ youth. This community is more likely to experience housing issues due to ongoing family conflicts with their sexual orientation and gender identity. A young girl named Alicia, who is a member of the community, has also been in and out of foster care, tents, and couch surfing since she was a small child. She always felt unsafe sleeping on the streets at night, so she worked graveyard shifts and slept on park benches and buses during the day to stay safe. She felt more pressure to perform sexual acts in return for food and money since she did not have a network of people to help her. She studied in the school library and showered in the school gym, left with no other choice. Frustrated and exhausted, Alicia signed up for a Covenant House. She waited 3 months until she was finally admitted. She now has access to regular meals and a bed. Alicia says, "Absolutely nothing that happened to me is acceptable, and it shouldn't happen to anyone else," she said, "and it's not okay to think a kid can sleep on the street and nothing will happen to them. We all have the responsibility to do something about it." This account was recorded by the Los Angeles newspaper group on January 6, 2018. Homelessness is extremely expensive for each person and taxpayer. The Downtown Streets Team is a nonprofit organization located in San Jose, California that aids homelessness in the transition to gain employment in order to create safe environments for individuals. According to the Downtown Streets Team, homeless costs Santa Clara County $520 million a year, and as high as $83,000 per chronically homeless individual. Without proper care, homeless individuals cycle in and out of hospitals, prisons, detox centers, and psychiatric centers, costing taxpayers more and more each year. Now that I have discussed the problems within homelessness, I will now discuss the causes of homelessness. With the examples I stated above, we can now explore the causes within homelessness and why many are victims to their circumstances. In reality, homelessness is not a choice but forced upon individuals due to the rising cost of living, rent, mental health care, and lack of support from family members. Affordable housing has become scarce, forcing families into homelessness as rent continues to increase in price while wages are stagnant, leaving most people with no other choice. The Heart for the Homeless Foundation sheds light on the Buffalo, New York rent increase. An estimated 60% of local renters are spending more of their one-third income housing, sacrificing other necessities such as food, clothing, and transportation as they seek residence in market rate rentals, which are now restricted by affordable housing laws. If rent continues to rise, so will the demand for housing. Homelessness can be a never-ending cycle for many, but especially those with drug addictions. Domilage David, TCA Regional News, Chicago, November 2017 reports, an inmate named Jason Pertullo was sent to jail due to his drug addiction. His mom says she's just thankful he isn't sleeping on the streets as he normally is, and that he's been struggling with his addiction since the age of 17, which was the inevitable cause of his homelessness and his time served in prison. After Pertullo was released from jail, he was found on the streets by a girl named Taylor, beaten by a group of drug dealers. Taylor offered him a place to live so he could get back on his feet, as long as he promised not to do drugs and steal. He is now returned to prison, falling back into the same bad habits. Mental health issues and drug abuse are the two main causes of homelessness. Once you are caught in the cycle of addiction, it can be hard to prioritize your funds for housing, healthcare, and basic necessities. My father has struggled with mental health issues his entire life. At the age of 16, he was kicked out of his house for using heroin, which he turned to as an escape from his chronic depression. He came from a broken family and was forced into homelessness by his own mother. At the time, he was just a child and he had no money to take care of himself and spent most of his nights sleeping on the street or couch surfing at his friends' houses. His heroin addiction caused him to repeat this endless cycle of chronic homelessness since he would use any money he received to buy more drugs. This cycle deepened his battle with depression. Years later, he met my mother and quit using heroin. He was given a second chance at life as a father when my sister and I were born. He still struggles with trauma that comes with having experienced homelessness, but takes medication to regulate his past addiction so he does not relapse. Homelessness can inflict permanent damage on a person's mental health. The lack of support he was given as a child, his housing circumstances, and addiction is a pain he will carry with himself forever. Now that I've discussed the myths, misconceptions, and causes of homelessness, I will discuss the solutions and how you can help. The first step to addressing homeless starts on a federal level. If we invest more money into programs for homeless people, we can fund consistent meals, available housing, technology beds, job resources, more homeless shelters. And according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, Congress should invest in proven solutions to homeless by providing at least $3.1 billion for homeless assistance. The money invested in homeless communities should show actual results. Next, our state can take action into helping those in need. We can prioritize what we invest our money into and ultimately slow the spread of an ongoing homeless crisis. The state can implement new laws to protect the homeless, and you could support these future bills and prevent individuals from ending up in prison due to begging, loitering, and sleeping in front of buildings. Lastly, we can all contribute to this cause by volunteering at our local homeless shelters, donating to those that are in dire need. You can donate clean socks to prevent those who may get a severe foot infection or lower leg infection. The more awareness we build around this issue, the more we can make a change. Now that we are all aware of this crisis and we can urge others to take action, the reality is no one should be faced with these decisions on a daily basis. Displaced people suffer severely, mentally and physically, by not getting the essential care they need. Most homeless people focus on how to stay safe and alive every day and do not have the luxury of focusing on other important factors in building a normal life. As accounted by the Community Health Journal, given that homeless is associated with increased risk of victimization, social exclusion, and incarceration, these adversaries may complicate the recovery process without finances and stability. It can be nearly impossible to recover from the mental toll that comes with homelessness. We must take a call to action in fixing this crisis. I will leave you with this sad reality. Our president, who has the ability to fund this crisis, was invited to walk the streets of Los Angeles. In an interview with Fox News, he stated, "It's very sad, very sad. It's a phenomenon that started 2 years ago. It's disgraceful. President Trump says even though he has cut funds for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which could set back the homeless community by millions of dollars, the American public will follow in suit in their leader in recognizing the severity of the homeless problem nationwide. Once recognized, these struggles of mental health, finances, and addiction, and so much more can be addressed and hopefully resolved. When the president is ready to acknowledge this crisis and finally take action, only then will the homeless population begin to get the recognition they deserve. Thank you for your time.
Comments on Amanda's speech. Positive aspects are that it has a good, clear, and powerful message, and you educated yourself on the subject and found good sources and had a passion for the topic to begin with, and you didn't stray off topic at all during the speech. Negative aspects are that the tone and presentation is very repetitive, so you don't have any breaks of time for the listener to digest what you just said. So maybe just talk a little slower, break in between paragraphs, and kind of choose how the tone of your voice can impact what you're saying more depending on which paragraph that you're reading. Meaning, if you're talking more about our Father, it would be something more meaningful, slower. I don't know how to say. Also, another comment that I had was the last paragraph kind of seemed like it was out of place, so maybe put that before you talk about things that you can do. Kind of leave the reader thinking that they can make an impact by things that they can do on a daily basis. And yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed it.